This is CBC Here and Now.
Making changes to travel restrictions, which will take effect 12:01 a.m. Thursday, September 30th.
The certified record of proof of vaccination allows access to a business or venue.
The government promises vaccine passports are coming soon.
And why it's changing the rules for partially vaccinated travelers.
We have some rain on the way over the next 24 hours for most of the island, and I'm still watching Hurricane Sam.
It's municipal election day here in the province. Overall, more candidates have stepped forward, more females, yet in some communities, not enough to fill a slate.
I think it's a little bit disappointing that there aren't other people who are interested in making the decisions for this area.
I'm Terry Roberts, and I'll have that story coming up.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. We begin with new mandatory vaccination rules and the province's new target for vaccination rates. Now that 80% of the population is fully vaccinated, health officials say we need to get to 90%. And to do that, it's making a change. If you work for the province, you'll have to get vaccinated. And we have a few new details about the plan to require people to be vaccinated for non-essential activities. So time to bring in Here and Now's Peter Cowan, who was asking questions at today's briefing. So Peter, let's start with mandatory vaccinations. Why the change?
Yeah, Carolyn, this is going to affect a lot of people. The easy answer from the province was, why are they making this change? Because the virus has changed. When we started doing vaccinations in earnest earlier this year, they thought that having 80% of the eligible population vaccinated would be enough for that herd immunity to keep the virus at bay. But that was before the Delta variant, which spreads more easily. The province now has a goal of 90%. Part of the plan to get there is if you're a healthcare worker, a teacher, a civil servant, you're going to have to be vaccinated.
We need to make sure that we're using every tool that we have available to us to achieve the highest vaccination rates possible. And although this is not a path we wanted to go down by any stretch, we do have a responsibility to protect the public first and foremost, and that's why we made this decision.
Okay, so the other part of the plan to increase rates is the vaccine passport. What more did we learn today about how that will work?
Yeah, they still haven't announced the key details. For example, what are the non-essential activities that you're going to have to be vaccinated in order to participate in? Other provinces, it's restaurants, gyms, sporting events, but we don't have that final list here. Government is still consulting with businesses, but we do know today how it's going to work. So let me just walk you through it. So you'll go online and generate a QR code, which is kind of like a fancy barcode. You can see one there on your screen. You'll do it from the same place that you look up your vaccination status. You can then show it using a smartphone app, or you can print it off. You can also order a physical copy if you don't have a printer. The business will then use an app to scan your code, and it then either gives you green, saying yes, you're okay, or red if you're not. Now, this is the same app and infrastructure that Quebec has been using, and hackers there were able to get copies of the QR codes for politicians and other high-profile people. They were also able to create barcodes for a fake person, and it was accepted into the system, giving that green light. The Premier says the advantage of going second is Newfoundland and Labrador can avoid similar problems.
Part of choosing the Quebec model was so that we could have some of the kinks worked out somewhere else, so to speak, instead of recreating the wheel. We know anytime there's a piece of new technology, there's going to be issues with it, and if we can have shared experiences from other jurisdictions, then certainly in this kind of acuity of an issue like a pandemic, we should certainly exercise those experiences.
So why are they bringing in vaccine passports now? Is it because the risk of unvaccinated people in places like restaurants is too high, or is this more of a tool to just push more people to get vaccinated? The Premier said today it's a little of both.
Perfect combination of both. It's a behavior modification, a nudge, so to speak, in terms of getting a higher uptake. But overall, as a general principle, the higher the rate of vaccination, the better the public health scenario. So it's not really one or the other. It's both working in concert to achieve a common goal.
Peter, something else new today. The rules for people entering the province are also changing. So what does this mean for visitors or Newfoundlanders and Labradorians returning home?
Carolyn, if you're fully vaccinated, then the short answer is nothing changes. You'll still be able to enter the province without testing or isolation. But if you're unvaccinated or only have one shot, that's where these rule changes may affect you. Let's go over them. So if you only have one shot, then you'll now be treated as unvaccinated. That means you'll have to quarantine, and you can take a test partway through to end your isolation before the full 14 days. With the rising cases in Atlantic Canada, they have scrapped the Atlantic bubble. That means anyone coming from those provinces must follow the same rules as any other part of Canada. Before, anyone from Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, or PEI didn't need to be vaccinated in order to avoid quarantine, but now they do. And before I go, let's go over the COVID numbers from today. There were 14 new cases, all of them in the central region. There are now 4 people in hospital. And after 10 recoveries, there are now 159 active cases in the province. Tomorrow we are expecting another briefing. The focus is going to be on modeling, so we'll get a sense of what the 4th wave of COVID could look like here. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Botwood Collegiate is the latest in a slew of schools infected with COVID-19. In-class instruction continued there today for anybody not in isolation. Botwood Collegiate is a grade 7 to 12 school, and it serves several surrounding communities. And as COVID intersects with cold and flu season, public health is asking people to be vigilant about symptoms, especially families who have children back at school. Here Now's Meg Roberts explains what this could mean for your family.
So your kid has a runny nose, maybe a cough, a little tingle in the throat. Those symptoms used to go hand in hand with going back to school, but this year it's different. So if you find yourself reaching for a tissue and don't know what to do next, you're not alone. It might be hard to tell the difference between a common cold and COVID-19, but officials aren't taking any chances. If your child has any of these symptoms, even just one, public health is asking that you keep them at home. Next, you should call 811 or go to 811healthline.ca and take the online assessment. Public health officials will let you know if your child needs a COVID test. Now, while you wait for those results, the child does not have to isolate away from the rest of the family. Parents and children who are feeling well, they don't have to sit at home. If they need a COVID test, hopefully it's good news and the results come back negative. But your child still won't be able to go back to school until they've been symptom-free for 24 hours. If the results are positive, the whole family will have to isolate and public health will begin contact tracing. Your child may start to feel unwell at school. If staff notices symptoms, their child will be taken to a designated room and a guardian will be asked to pick them up immediately. Remember, your child can't go back to school until they're symptom-free. A runny nose can last a while, so it could be a tough winter. But public health officials say keeping your kids at home when they're sick is the best way to protect the whole school community. So if your kid has a runny nose, it's worth missing that math test to see about a COVID test.
Well, it's a big day for the nearly 300 incorporated municipalities in this province, and with a few exceptions, these communities will have selected new councils by later this evening. And as Terry Roberts reports, the overall number of candidates is up, but the level of interest in municipal leadership, well, that varies from community to community.
Logie Bay, Middle Cove, Outer Cove. It's a mouthful of a name, but when it comes to today's ballot for the municipal election, the word is sparse. The only contest is for the mayor's chair. 2 people in the hunt. There are 6 other council seats in the town of 2,300, but only 1 person stepped forward.
I think it's a little bit disappointing that there aren't other people who are interested in making the decisions for this area.
A unique scenario that will see the current council continue to run the town until another call for nominations can take place. Despite this, a steady parade of voters arrived at the town hall today to select a mayor.
Hopefully there will be more another time.
The situation in this town is a unique and rare case. But if you look on the other end of the spectrum, you have a place like Roberts Arm in Green Bay South. 16 candidates vying for 7 seats in a community of just 900. Unprecedented voter choice.
Right now, the trend is there doesn't seem to be a trend. It really depends on each specific municipality, what's happening there.
Here's what is known. 2,163 candidates throughout the province, a bump of about 3% from 4 years ago, reversing a concerning pattern.
It had been sort of plateauing and going down for a number of elections, but this year we actually saw a bump, so we're really pleased about that.
And the gender imbalance is narrowing. 39% of the candidates who disclosed their gender identified as female, up from 33% from 4 years ago, and more young people.
9% of candidates are between the age of 18 and 35, which is like the lowest sort of age category that we look at. And that's impressive. That's a good jump for us. We're very happy with that.
The contest in St. John's, meanwhile, is a curious one. The mayor and deputy mayor returned without so much as a challenge, but 13 hopefuls competing for just 4 at-large seats. Voters dropping off or casting ballots at this polling station in St. John's today appeared satisfied by the experience.
This was the easiest vote I ever had to do, because we did it at home, just dropped them off, perfect. 2 of us sat down to the side by side, right? Will we vote for this one? That's up to you. I'm voting for this one.
And it was very simple, very easy, very informative, and everybody was very helpful.
Similar reactions here in Corner Brook.
I think there's some really good candidates this year. I'm really excited about the outcome.
I've said if you don't vote, you got no say. Isn't that true? In the place, so. And I think it's time for it to change. Up with some, not a lot, but some of them needs to be changed.
Those eligible have until 8 o'clock this evening to do this.
I just feel that we have to, we need to vote, right? If we don't, well, what can we say? We shouldn't say anything if we haven't exercised our franchise of voting.
With this exercise helping set in motion the direction municipalities will take for the next 4 years. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
We'll take a live look across the province, or at least parts of the province. Burgeo looking at that fog and drizzle for most of the afternoon. Beautiful evening in Corner Brook, and then same thing as we head towards the northern peninsula, Daniels Harbor, looking beautiful right now. What's going on is we've got an area of low pressure spinning up across Labrador. We've got a couple of fronts associated with that as well, and we're seeing those clearing skies. Now we saw those showers a little bit earlier on the west coast, but those clearing skies right now. And now those showers are working their way towards eastern areas of the island. Some periods of rain expected as we head through the night tonight as well. But an absolutely beautiful start to the day anyway, and most of the afternoon reached a high near 20 degrees in St. John's today, 19 in Terra Nova, similar temperature through Gander at 20 degrees, and then the rest of the island pretty much sitting in the teens as your daytime highs, and then again those cooler temperatures up through northern portions of Labrador. Now, not a whole lot of humidity in the air. We saw that yesterday, but right now currently feeling like 19 in St. John's with the temperature in and around 16 degrees. Now, we are going to see those showers work their way through as we head through the evening hours tonight. Could see some heavy showers as well. I'll break that down for you and get into the full forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, after 10 long days, the search has ended for 2 fishermen missing off the south coast of Labrador. The RCMP has been coordinating the search for Mark Russell and Joey Jenkins, who were last heard from on September 17th. Crews have been searching for the men and their boat by air and on water. Divers, sonar equipment, and ROV technology were also used to try to locate the men, but with no success. 8 agencies were involved in the search, plus local volunteers. Now, while the search is over, police say the investigation for Russell and Jenkins will remain open as a missing persons case. Anyone with further information or possible sightings is asked to contact the police in Mary's Harbor.
A family in Happy Valley Goose Bay wants better Medevac service for newborns. They had to wait more than 30 hours before their critically ill child could be flown to St. John's for urgent care. Here now's Reagan Burden has that story.
When Rhea Way was born at the Labrador Health Center in Happy Valley Goose Bay back in April, she had a rare genetic disorder and required care that could only be provided at the Janeway. To access that care, her family relied on Eastern Health's neonatal air ambulance services.
At the time the call went out, they told us that because of her condition, our daughter Rhea, she was the most urgent case in the province, and that they would come get her as soon as they could. And then time kept going on.
So they waited. While weather was partly to blame for the 30-plus hour delay, Wei says he and his family began to suspect that there was more at play. He says he was told another story once they arrived in St. John's, that staffing and money were also a factor.
It took a while, and finally, when we were at the Janeway, a couple people told us that we were actually right, that this was a policy change that had happened earlier in the year, and that basically they didn't want to have payment for a second transport team to always be on calls.
For a family with a sick child, it made Wei feel helpless and angry. He believes that round-the-clock air ambulance services should always be available, especially for the most vulnerable.
When I got on that plane, leaving from Goose Bay to go to St. John's, I didn't know if I would ever see my daughter alive again because the Medevac team had not arrived. I took a flight out because it was my only option for the next 3 days, and somebody had to be there waiting for her if they showed up and they took her to St. John's. There's a lot of trauma that comes with that, and I think that it's not some unpredictable thing, this type of scenario, and I think there has to be a fair bit of accountability for it.
In an email, Eastern Health says that it has had challenges the past 6 months providing 24/7 neonatal air ambulance services due to the limited number of staff who are trained to provide this specialized support. Eastern Health says it is working on trying to recruit and train more staff, and that they hope to resume these services to 24/7 as soon as possible. But in the meantime, for newborns like Rhea, who require specialized care, there's no guarantee that they won't have to wait to receive it. Reagan Burden, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
Memorial University has a new space on its St. John's campus. Today it moved the Indigenous Student Resource Center to a new location off Elizabeth Avenue. We spoke with MUN's new VP Indigenous about what the building will mean for students.
This is such an exciting day for us. This is the grand opening of Juniper House, which houses the Indigenous Student Resource Center at the St. John's campus of Memorial University. So it's a former private residence that the university acquired a number of years ago and has used for multiple purposes since then. So we went ahead and we made some renovations, improved the exterior of the building, and did some retrofitting inside. And it is just an absolutely beautiful space. We've always said it's so important to have dedicated space for Indigenous students on campus, a place where they can see themselves reflected in the staff around them, in the artwork and what's in the space. It's important to have a place where they can create community, where there's a sense of belonging, like a home away from home. And that just helps with student success, and that is something that is really important to us, and it's important to Indigenous communities and Indigenous students, and this house will certainly help with all of that. We have a lot of our Indigenous students that are coming from Labrador, so not only are they coming to St. John's and getting used to a much larger city, and coming to a campus that in many cases is 20 or more times larger than their home communities. It's so important to have this space, and I've heard one of our students referring to it as a refuge, and having that home away from home is so important. We want to make sure that they have a positive experience, that they flourish here on our campuses, and that's all about providing spaces and places, but it's also looking at our courses and our academic programs to make sure that Indigenous peoples and cultures and histories are reflected in the classroom as well.
There is good news for anyone who hasn't finished home renovations connected to government's residential rebate program. The province is extending the deadline to complete the work to the end of November. Now, the extension doesn't involve new work, but rather previously approved projects. Also, the deadline for submitting payment forms is extended to the end of January. The program was put in place last year to help the construction industry. It offers homeowners a rebate of up to 25% on renovations and new builds. More than 10,000 applications were approved.
The Canadian Premier League looked at this province as a possible home after Newfoundland and Labrador pitched to host 8 teams in St. John's for the first part of the 2021 season. Well, in the end, it didn't work out. Rob Antle has the details.
Big rebound and it's in!
This was the scene in Winnipeg on the first day of the 2021 Canadian Premier League season, the first of a month's worth of games in a bubble. Weeks before that kickoff out west, provincial government officials here were working on a plan, a proposal to bring the 8-team league to St. John's for nearly 2 months instead, a possibility serious enough that Premier Andrew Furey got a 4-page briefing about it. We got a heavily redacted version of that document through accessed information. It shows that the city was on side, and so were public health officials, to play games here at King George V in St. John's. The only remaining question was about money, and how much of a financial contribution the province was willing to kick in. It's not clear what happened next, other than the fact that the CPL decided to bubble up in Winnipeg instead. League officials did not provide comment. The Newfoundland and Labrador government declined interview requests and wouldn't provide any details on what type of financial offer, if any, it made to the league. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, despite all of those no comments, there are more details about this story on our website. That's at cbc.ca/nl.
Well, we're starting to see some showers roll across the Avalon. We're looking at some rain as well as we head through the day tomorrow. I'll get into all those details and tell you how much rain to expect across the province when I come back.
Well, we're at the end of September, but it was like a summer's day today in St. John's.
I know, I can't believe how quick September went, and the
Yeah.
weather's certainly helping with that, because it has been absolutely lovely. I think it was a high 20 degrees today in
Love
St.
it.
John's. Yeah, it's beautiful.
It
I'll take
is.
lots more of that.
Yes, please.
Let's take a look at the current situation right now. We've got an area of low pressure up to the north, and some showers working their way across eastern Newfoundland as we speak. And we're going to see that generally continue tonight. There's a closer look there. We're going to see the skies actually clear, or at least partly clear, for the west coast. And all the action should be along southern areas of the island as well as the east. Temperatures right now still pretty nice out there. 16 degrees in St. John's, 14 in Twillingate, 15 in Burgeo, and then a temperature near 10 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay, 9 in Kovrig right now. So taking a look at the future tracker, area of low pressure to the north, and then we're seeing some rain bands move through. So that will generally be the story tonight. Now, as we head into after midnight into the early morning hours, looks like some heavy rain will likely develop along the south coast as well as eastern portions of the island, and then continue for most of the morning. We're going to see some scattered shower activity up through northern and coastal areas of Labrador as well. Otherwise, fairly quiet night for you, but chilly, anywhere from 2 to 7 degrees across the Big Land. The winds out of the north about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour for those northern areas. And then as far as the island goes, most of the temperatures for central and eastern Newfoundland will actually be in and around 11 to 15 degrees as the overnight lows. But as we see some of those skies clearing, temperatures will dip into the single digits. 8 degrees for Corner Brook, similar for St. Anthony tonight. And even some low-lying areas through central will see some of that cooler air as well. Now, as far as tomorrow goes, here's those rain bands. The future tracker showing that into the early morning hours. As we get into the afternoon, we'll probably even see some peaks of sun for the Avalon, and then some more showers will move in through central as well as southern areas of the island as we get into the afternoon. And then some heavier rain yet again Wednesday night and through the overnight for the west coast. And then eventually even some more showers will move in for the east as well. As far as Labrador goes, it'll be unsettled through the day tomorrow, but you're just going to see that slight chance of showers as the day goes on. As far as rainfall amounts, this will take us through to Wednesday morning. We're looking at a solid trace to 5 millimeters. Now, in some of that heavier rain, we could see pockets of 10, even 15 millimeters of rain as we get into the early morning hours. And then tomorrow, when we see that bigger push of moisture move in, this is where we could see some pockets of 20 to 30, even 30 plus millimeters through the interior and parts of the south coast as well. Like I said, for Labrador, just showers, you're looking at a trace to 5 millimeters max as we get into Thursday morning. So tomorrow, going to hang on to those nice temperatures, those 20-degree temperatures, at least for the first half of the day for the most of the Avalon. 22 degrees is what I have for St. John's. Those winds will be out of the south, about 20 kilometers per hour. They'll be a little gusty in the morning, but as the afternoon rolls through, we actually will see those winds die down a little bit. As you head towards Clarenville, Bonavista, going to keep those skies generally gray through the day, along with some of those cooler temperatures. And that's the story through central as well. Some periods of rain will move in as the day progresses. 14 degrees for Gander. And as you head towards the west coast, those winds will be out of the east about 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. But again, those cooler temperatures, same thing for the northern peninsula. Likely a few peaks of sun for you, but going to keep those skies gray for most of the southeastern portion of Labrador. 9 degrees in Cartwright tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the northeast as well. And then there you go, temperatures into the single digits for coastal areas of Labrador. Lab City at 9 degrees and Happy Valley Goose Bay at 10 for tomorrow, along with those showers through the day. So that's a look at tomorrow's forecast. Still looking ahead, still keeping an eye on Hurricane Sam. I'll have some details on that when I come back.
The labor shortage story in Newfoundland and Labrador is especially difficult in rural parts of our province. Coming up, we'll continue our Help Wanted series. Ernie, this place has been around since the late 60s. Tell me a bit about the history of this restaurant.
Well, our parents started this restaurant in 1968. My mom and dad did. And from there, we continued on. We were at young ages that we assisted and participated and worked at, from peeling potatoes to right on through. And I guess in the early 80s, I became full-time here working. And Tony, probably early 90s and late 80s, he came full-time working. And as years go by, our parents retired, stepped away from the business, and we took over the business full-time.
So Ernie, what's happened over the last little while? What's changed?
Over the last little while, what changed, basically from 2019, we had 32 staff, and now we're down to 7.
How do you run the place?
You run the place by, closing on Mondays, getting the remaining staff that you have and that you love and that you appreciate them, and that you give them a day off on Mondays, and you try to maintain the rest of the week by reduced hours.
At what point did you guys, your brothers, you run a business, did
Yes.
you sort of look at each other and go, what is going on?
Oh, many times.
Every day.
Many times. And we even discussed ourselves, like, why are we at this? But it's in our blood. We don't know nothing else. So the food service industry, and you stay with it.
You sort of feel like this is our family business. It's been around for 53 years. This is why we've been digging our heels in and trying to keep the place going. We're kind of hoping, I don't know, every day we hope somebody's going to apply. It doesn't happen, but you're always hopeful every day.
We're in a part of Newfoundland where everybody knows everybody, smaller community.
Yes.
So in and around the Brigus area, are there other businesses, Tony, going through the similar kind of problem?
I would imagine. I know we speak to different takeouts and stuff like that, and they're in the same situation as we are.
It's not just you.
It's
No,
not just us,
no. It seemed like ever since this been happening, we have a close camaraderie with the local businesses that are in here that you could say are a competition, but you have a bit of a friendship with them too, right?
Yeah.
And they're experiencing the same things too.
Now with CERB, fading away, we think, and that
Yes.
kind of government assistance.
Yes.
I guess one of two possibilities. One is people will say, well, I'm going to find other ways to make a living.
Correct.
Or I am going to have to go back to work, whether it's in a place like your business or some other business. I wonder if things will change as we see that government assistance pulled back.
Oh, we're hoping.
We're
Yeah.
hoping. But you can see the trend right across Canada that the food service industry is, a lot of people are not going back to the food service industry even after coming out.
Whatever comes out.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because on social media, a lot of people criticize me for the first story, saying, "Oh, you should be asking, why can't workers get more?" But do you think people will be willing, for example, to pay, I don't know, $20 for an order of onion rings here to guarantee that you could pay more wages? Because everybody seems to complain that we're not paying enough. But do you think customers want to pay more so you guys can pay your workers more?
No.
I don't think
No,
so.
because we're finding it now. And this is the problem, that we're trying to maintain a level menu pricing that our customers can accommodate and be comfortable with. And then by doing that, you're trying to level and maintain a wage that you're you're not going in the hole, sort of thing,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we'd love to pay our employees $20 an hour.
Who wouldn't?
Right?
Yeah.
But it's something that realistically you can't do.
Yeah, like maybe in a city, in downtown city, you can charge that top dollar for your plate of onion rings because you got a larger population and you have more than one person there that makes a certain income that can afford that. But when you're talking about rural Newfoundland, your plate of French fries has to be a certain price. Your plate of onion rings, your custard cone, your iced soft serve ice cream has to be at that certain price. You go over $3 for a soft serve ice cream, you won't sell it. So these are the variants that you look at, and these affect your menu, and these affect everything that you're looking at.
Watching right now knows they've gone to a restaurant like this, or maybe even a chain, a franchise, some of the big players, and they
Yes.
have met people who are clearly not from Newfoundland and Labrador, and I don't mean Ontario, I mean from other countries.
Correct, yeah.
If nobody wants these jobs, are foreign workers a potential solution once again?
It's...
You're sighing.
It's a Band-Aid.
It's a very small Band-Aid in my
Yeah.
opinion. We've been dealing with the foreign worker program now for
2018?
Yeah.
Since 2018.
So the problem with for us, the problem with it is we're in a rural area, and they usually are supposed to come for 2 years or so underneath their contracts that we sign with them. The problem is when they get their permanent residency, they leave us. So we never get their full contracts out of them.
And it seems like they leave for the urban area.
Go back to Toronto or Montreal, Vancouver, yeah.
Yeah, and even St. John's.
Yeah.
Even St. John's right there now. Because rural Newfoundland, if you don't have a car, it's difficult to get to the supermarket. If you don't have a car, it's difficult to get to the doctor's office. There's no bus routes.
And in many cases, these are workers who are kind of starting a new kind of life in Canada or Newfoundland, right?
Yeah. So they don't have a driver's license. They don't have the money to buy a car.
Yeah.
And it takes time to, build up this.
And on the other side of it too, like small businesses like ourselves and small shop owners and stuff like that, it's an expensive process to do. Like you're flying the people in, you're paying for the permits and all this stuff, and then you got to find affordable accommodations for them.
It's another cost.
It's a high cost, and like small business, especially us nowadays, we're reduced hours, reduced time working, reduced money coming in. It's kind of hard to, top up 6, 7, 8 employees with foreign workers. It's a cost that you really can't incur right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Tony, Ernie, I really appreciate your candor and your honesty, and I hope that some solution is found, and we'll stay in touch because I know we're going to be doing more stories about this. Thanks a lot for your time. I know you guys want to open up.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I'll let you get to work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, boys.
Well, now, is there so much help wanted because there's a shortage of labor, or is there a shortage of labor because there's a shortage of jobs that pay better wages? There's a lot to explore here, so tweet me your thoughts and story ideas at Anthony Germain, and we'll have more in our Help Wanted series in the coming weeks.
Liberal MP Scott Simms had a colorful 17-year career in Ottawa, standing up to federal leaders, tossing away the party line, and the people of Coast of Bay's central Notre Dame kept voting him in because of it. But not this time around. We speak with Scott Simms about what changed and what he's going to do next. That's coming up. Welcome back to Here Now. Well, when the votes were finally counted in Coast of Bay's Central Notre Dame, Liberal incumbent Scott Sims was nudged out of office, leaving him seatless in Parliament for the first time in 17 years. Now, it was a pretty close race. Sims and PC candidate Clifford Small both had more than 14,000 votes each. But in the end, Small was the successor. He'll be taking the only PC seat in the province, and Sims is taking a bow. Scott Sims joins us now from his office in Grand Falls, Windsor. Hello.
Hello, Chrissy. Nice to see you again.
You as well. So with a little bit of distance from the campaign right now, I mean, how is the result sitting with you?
We knew it was tight. I could hear it at the doorsteps, the frustration and the anger. So since then, since Election Day, I can honestly say that I'm in a good place. I had 17 years. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I'm not sad it's over. I'm glad it happened, and I'm very happy to get on with things. So I've managed to look forward to day one.
Well, let's talk about party support. Chrystia Freeland, for example, was out on the campaign trail with Joanne Thompson, shining her star power all over the place, but she didn't show up on doorsteps with you. I mean, when you reflect on that now, I mean, do you think that would have made the difference?
I'm not sure if it would have made the difference. The only thing I have to say to that is, during campaigns, I've never had people from outside come in. I've stood on my own. It's my name on the ballot. I always believe that I should be the one that's a focus here. I don't blame anybody else for this loss. I don't blame my volunteers, obviously. I don't blame my staff, and I don't blame Justin Trudeau either, because the blame lies with me, Scott Sims. I was on the ballot, and I like to maintain my campaigns throughout that through that message, which is here I am. I work for you, and hopefully I can get your support.
You've been pretty popular in the riding for 17 years. It's a long time, likely because of your, how do I say, your inner rebel, maybe? I mean, you've said many times that you vote right on behalf of the people that you represent, not for the party. And there have been times that you toss the party line aside to do that. So sort of looking at what's happened here, I mean, how do you read this election result? Do you view this as a personal defeat, or do you view this as more about the party?
For me, I think over the past number of years, I've always put myself first out in front as the representative of the people in Ottawa. Now, I've also voted against the party on certain principled situations that I found myself in, and I've done that. That because I've always said my boss lives in my riding. If someone says they're my boss and they don't live in my riding, that's not the case. So I mean, there's a number of things at play here, obviously, whether you're a Liberal or whether you're a Scott Sims supporter or you're against the Liberal Party or against someone else. I always put myself out there. And quite frankly, I think it's irresponsible for a lot of politicians these days that if they lose or diminished, they tend to blame other people. When in fact, if your name is on the ballot, the fault lies with you.
You know, after 17 years, I bet you could write several books on lessons learned, adventures had in federal politics. But I mean, of all the encounters, of all the, situations you've been in, I mean, what is is there one moment that does stand out to you, the story that you're going to be sharing for years to come at dinner parties?
Yeah, it's a very short one. Just last year, when I had a gentleman from Crowhead came up to me and said simply, "Mr. Sims, are you Mr. Sims?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I'm going to tell you, I don't care what they say. You're a good man."
What do you say to that? What do you say to that, right?
I just said, "Thank you," and thank you. But it's so indicative of how things are nowadays in politics. It can be very nasty. It can be very divisive. And he was dead serious when he said it. So you hear that and you go, yeah, that's the state of politics nowadays, isn't it?
Are you done with politics? Is it over, done with for good? Like, what is next?
Well, 17 years says I should take a break for a bit, so I'm going to do that. I don't know immediately what's next. All I know is I'm going to spend some time for myself and try to figure things out and go from there. But I think there's a song that states quite simply, I don't know where I'm going, but I certainly know where I come from. And hopefully I can persevere because of that.
Mr. Sims, thanks so much for your time and best of luck with whatever comes next.
Chrissy, thank you so much for the time. Not just now, but throughout the years. Thank you.
The rescue operation continues in northern Ontario to save miners trapped nearly 1 kilometer underground since Sunday. Now we're hearing that at least 35 of 39 miners have made it safely to the surface of the Totten mine near Sudbury, and one miner who made it out shared his exhilaration.
Know how long you're going to be down there, and they do their best, right, to try to tell you what's going on and whatnot. So it's a little bit of anxiety. Ready to go home, ready to go see my family. I feel great.
Now, it's a long, slow climb out for the trapped miners as they make their way up an emergency ladder that is 1,200 meters long. And for comparison, that's about the length of 2 CN towers. Officials say no one has been injured. The emergency started over the weekend when a loose piece of equipment damaged the main elevator shaft, the only access in and out of the mine.
Well, after spending more than 1,000 days in Chinese prison, both Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig are gradually adjusting to normal life in Canada. And nowadays, that also means getting your COVID-19 vaccine shot. Here's how Kovrig's local pharmacy handled his visit.
We blasted City and Color coming home on the speakers, and we gave him a standing ovation. No, he didn't want any of it. He was kind of very humble about it. And he was joking around. He was like, "Is this what you do for everyone that comes in for a vaccine?" And we said, obviously not.
The pharmacist praised Kovrig for prioritizing getting vaccinated as soon as possible. And speaking of things we've missed during the pandemic, Kovrig also stopped at a hair salon. His barber posted this picture on Facebook and called it an honor to cut his hair. Well, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is laying out his government's post-election priorities, and topping his list are vaccinations and moving Canada past the pandemic.
We're going to keep good on our word to protect our frontline health workers who have stepped up for us these past many months, and ensure that anyone who harasses or intimidates them is faced with criminal sanctions.
Trudeau spoke outside a vaccine clinic in Ottawa earlier today. He says his government is moving ahead with plans to require travelers to be fully vaccinated before boarding a plane or train. Trudeau also repeated his intention to bring in rules requiring the same of all federal workers. Other priorities include finalizing a vaccine passport for Canadians traveling abroad and helping cover the costs of provinces already developing their own proof of vaccination systems. Trudeau says he will unveil a new gender-balanced cabinet next month and will recall Parliament later this fall. Chrystia Freeland will stay on as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Okay, so you've been keeping your eye on Hurricane Sam. What's the latest on that?
Well, just updated from the National Hurricane Center. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. So this is a look at Hurricane Sam. It's a fairly large storm. You can start to see that eye form there. Now, it is a Category 4 storm at the moment with sustained winds at 215 kilometers per hour. We're seeing those gusts upwards of 260, and as of now, the storm is moving slowly in the northwest direction. Now, as we head through the next couple of days, that storm will continue to track northwest. Eventually, as we get into Friday, it's going to make its shift northward and then eventually eastward as we get into Saturday. Now, I'm going to show you what the plots are showing at the moment. So you can see in behind here is a bunch of spaghetti plots, and the consensus is pretty good through Saturday that this will be the track of the storm. Now, as we head past Saturday into Sunday and Monday, look at what happens. The storm starts doing a bunch of loop-de-loops, and there's not really a good consensus on what is just going to happen. And like I mentioned yesterday, the reason for that is because of an area of low pressure that will be over the Maritime provinces through Thursday. And whether it interacts with that or not is what will determine what happens. But the general consensus, at least for the newest model guidance, is showing a track further eastward. That's good news. That means the further east that it tracks, the less impact for Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, there are still many days for that to come into consensus, but we do want that track to continue further east. Now, as that area of low pressure moves in Thursday, we're actually going to see lots of shower activity with this one, and that will continue through most of the afternoon, bringing with it some of the heavier rain bands through Thursday afternoon and then into pushing that further north as we get into Thursday evening for Labrador. So I'm going to keep those temperatures again a little bit cooler. They're going to start to drop off as we get into Thursday. 16 degrees for St. John's. Generally cloudy with showers right across the board. 12 to 13 degrees through Central, and then single-digit temperatures up across Labrador as we get into the afternoon. Nain looking at a high near 3 degrees for your Thursday. So certainly seeing some of those cooler temperatures. As we get into Friday, similar temperature, a couple of degrees warmer for Nain with a mix of sun and cloud, but again, going to keep things unsettled for the island as we get into Friday. Temperatures won't move too much, maybe a degree or two here and there, but then as we get into Saturday and Sunday, now the impacts, if we do see any impacts from Hurricane Sam, it will be Sunday, Monday, even Tuesday time frame. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But as of now, going to keep those temperatures, or rather the skies gray with that chance of showers right across the board for the weekend, 17 to 18 degrees. And then as we get into eastern Labrador, going to keep your temperatures in the single digits with some sunshine both Saturday and Sunday. And then I have the potential for a few flurries. Sorry about that for Lab West, and even some chance of showers, or rather flurries on Sunday morning. Had to share this shot, sunset in English Harbor. Gina shared that one with us. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Reaching for my sunglasses.
Yeah.
I know, that golden hour.
It looks almost balmy there.
It does. It looks beautiful.
Great shot.
Yes, thank you, Gina.
Well, election night tonight, municipal election. Lots of people going to the ballot box, I guess, tonight. It's open until 8 p.m.
Still time to vote.
Yeah.
And municipal politics, they say, is where the rubber meets the road in politics, and we'll have all the close stories and close races, I should say, tomorrow, and coverage of what you're deciding tonight as far as your town and community goes.
Yeah. All right. That's it for us, everyone. Have a great evening.
Good night.